So, hello, Ali, and welcome to our first edition of Talent MBA Expert Series. Um, as you know, Talent MBA works with various partners in the VC community and the startup ecosystem in matching their hiring needs with MBA students who are part of the Talent MBA platform. So, for our conversation with you, I'm pleased that we will be covering the topic of co working spaces. I find this resource to be an interesting partner to any new or young company that is in building or growing mode. So I'm excited to learn more. Our format for the Talent MBA Expert Series is to ask a few questions now to get the conversation started, and then continue the interview with additional questions in written form that our audience can read to gain more of your knowledge on this dynamic topic. Sounds okay?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So, first question is tell us about yourself, your background, and how you ended up as managing director of Atlanta Tech Village.
That is a much longer conversation, so I'm going to try to make it short. But this is like my third or fourth career. Let's be honest, unless you are planning from, grade school to be a brain surgeon, your career doesn't go up and to the right. Everybody's, looks like a ball of yarn. So, um, as part of this career, I had just left a large medical device company, which was about as marketing wise exciting as that sounds. And I basically showed up at Atlanta Tech Village at events until somebody hired me. That it sounds so cliche and silly, but it's true. I kept running into the founder of Sales Off, Kyle Porter, at events, and eventually he reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're hiring for a client success advocate. Do you want to think about doing that?" And I was like, "I don't know what that is, but yes, okay." And so it was very early on in Sales Off's life. So I ended up being an early employee at Sales Off. I got very lucky with that. Um, so I was with Sales Off for about 8 years. I was a lofter for life, wasn't planning to go anywhere. And as part of that, even though Sales Off started at Atlanta Tech Village, we grew up, we graduated out, we got too big for the space, had to start building our own culture separately. Stayed with SalesLoft, but I still stayed with some of the programs that Atlanta Tech Village ran. So one of them was the, at the time, monthly, now bi-monthly pitch event, Atlanta
Hmm.
Startup Village. So I ran Atlanta Startup Village for about 6 years, the whole 5 companies, 5-minute pitches, 5-minute Q&A concept, because I really, really loved startups and supporting them. And because of that, when David Cummings and David Lightburn, the two founders of Atlanta Tech Village, were looking for somebody to be the managing director so they could step back and work on some of their other projects, they very graciously sent me an email and said, "We have made up a title and we have 3 vague bullet points. Do you want to do it?" I was like, maybe, I don't know. But when the Davids make you an offer, you don't say no. And so here I am, almost 2 years in. I'll be 2 years in October.
Love it. You found them, right? And then they eventually got to notice you.
It ended up being a really symbiotic relationship. David Cummings was a investor and board member for SalesLoft, and so we had somewhat of a relationship already where we knew each other. I was helping do a lot of setup again, especially early on, where you're wearing a lot of different hats
Mm.
at a startup as it's growing. Ended up being very involved with what they were doing anyway, and I just really loved Atlanta Tech Village, which is why I didn't want to let go of all the pieces. I wanted to keep a piece,
Yeah.
and now I get to work here every day, which is super fun.
Love it. It's obvious that you're enjoying what you're doing, so that's fantastic. So in your role with ATV, why do you do what you do?
I think I touched on it a little bit earlier. I love supporting entrepreneurs. Usually, these are people who are super passionate about something. A lot of times, the thing they're passionate about is something that was a pain point in their own lives or that they saw a need for, and they are out here trying to fix it, make it better, turn things around in a different way so that nobody either has to go through what they or a family member went through, or they see the opportunity to make life so much better in some way. And I love that kind of passion, and it becomes really valuable to my heart, I guess, to help someone else find that level of satisfaction and drive something forward that really is changing the world.
Wonderful. So what's the topic that we're going to be discussing? further on in this conversation?
I mean, we talked about co-working and community, and I think those are the important keywords. Community is everything. Your network is everything, and we can definitely dig into that when we do the longer conversation because I have a ton to say on the topic.
That's awesome. It's a very important business tool, professional development tool. Be part of the community, stay engaged with the community. So definitely your thoughts on that is going to be very helpful for a lot of people. So along that thread, what is the main takeaway that you want people to walk away with after reading the entire interview?
I think the value of having a co-working space or a hub that is your community. And while that can be in a lot of ways a virtual aspect to it, there's certainly virtual communities that are very robust. Peloton built a whole business model on a robust virtual community. That does not replace what we at ATV like to say that we specialize in, which is serendipitous interactions. Those don't happen in a Zoom chat window. You don't run into somebody who then wants to introduce you to somebody else in a Zoom chat window. You can see somebody and you can say hey to them, but it's not the same thing as you're standing in line to get a coffee or you're getting on the elevator talking about your product and someone else on the elevator says, hey, I need that product. I would love to buy it. And those are things that I see happen all of the time at Atlanta Tech Village because we're a physical space where people are coming together with something in common. They're all entrepreneurs. They're working in startup and tech. They're all passionate about startup and tech and innovation. So they already have like a little bit of trust
Mm.
factor built up, which is why co-working and physical communities have such a good baseline. Everybody's there with a common purpose. And then it's just digging into what that specific common purpose is. Because creating that personal level. Oh, hey, I ran into you 3 times at the last 3 events. We should talk more. We should get lunch. We should grab a drink. We should get some coffee. And you start deepening those relationships in surprising ways. You never know when the person you're talking to knows the next person you need to be speaking to.
Wow. That's powerful. That's really resonating with me already. So I'm looking forward to our continued conversation. So thank you, Ali. I appreciate your thoughts and your insights and your knowledge on this very important topic. I think for the Talent MBA audience, it's fair to say that the remainder of your interview will be accessible through the link below, which we'll have on our website. And I want to say that for those of you who are listening to this, come back next month because we'll have continued conversations with other experts that will be part of the Talent MBA expert series. Thanks again, Ali.
Thank you so much for having me.